Hello, Innocent. Can you hear me?
Hello, Michael.
Okay. I can hear you now. Hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, fantastic. So I think we're right on time, so we can get started. So a very good afternoon, morning, evening, to everyone wherever you're joining from, and welcome to today's Continental Founder, webinar. So today's discussion, promises to be insightful, impactful, helping founders around Africa and around the continent to navigate the maze of entrepreneurship in Africa. There's an old African proverb that says that, wisdom is learning from other people's experiences and then not making those mistakes yourself so that it helps you to be able to navigate your journey and to make the right decisions. So we all know that, building in Africa is 10x harder than building anywhere else. And, this series aims to help us share knowledge from those that are doing amazing things around the continent and then creating a sort of community that helps to support ourselves, to be able to learn from, people's journeys and to help them to navigate that maze. So today, all the way from Tanzania, Innocent is joining us from Tanzania. And Innocent is a brilliant, AI startup entrepreneur in Africa. And today, this conversation, will help us to understand his journey. Innocent is the chief AI officer of Certify, and also, Certify is a deep tech AI first, company that uses research to build AI and ML models that will advance, the African story and the African context, helping ambitious governments, businesses, and individuals to have the same AI experience that any other global, company will have. So over the next 60 minutes, myself and Innocent will be chatting about his journey, talking about, his motivation for starting this. What were the foundational things? He had so many other things that he could have done, and so many other places that he could have been. So why did he choose entrepreneurship, and why did he choose entrepreneurship in Africa? Also, we'll be talking about funding, capital raising, how he navigated those challenges. We'll be talking about, technical and infrastructural challenges that we have in Africa. We'll talk about talent, we'll talk about skills, we'll talk about knowledge retention in Africa, and then we'll talk about the market, regulation, compliance, and lastly, strategy. So it's going to be an exciting time with Innocent today, and I'm sure we'll all have a lot of fun doing so. So, Innocent, welcome. And then, this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I've been looking forward to this because I have so many questions that I'm going to ask you. But let's start out with, just a quick 2 minutes, intro. Let's put it that way. So I've told the viewers and the audience who you are. So in 2 minutes, if you were to give a pitch of yourself, I'm sure you should be quite used to that right now, about who
Yeah,
is Innocent,
yeah,
what is Certify doing, and how are you helping businesses in Africa? What will that be? So let's start off with that.
yeah. Thanks a lot, Michael. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot. So, my name is Innocent Charles. I'm actually a co-founder and chief AI officer at Certify. So, we are actually using AI to help some major brands, small business enterprises to leverage artificial intelligence into their business operations so as to have business exponential growth. And also, we do some research, and also we just build products that individuals use to become productive during their daily lives. So my background also is in software engineering. So I have I have bachelor in science in software engineering, and I just love everything innovations. So from data, AI, software engineering, and design thinking, those kind of things. So thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, fantastic. This gets me, thinking immediately because most of the talent that we have in Africa, like yourself, and I'll say like myself, once we
Yeah,
get the level of competency we build makes us attractive, to global, I'll say hirers. So people like
yeah.
Google, people like Microsoft will be looking at talent like you. So for you, what? Okay, let me start this way. Entrepreneurship is hard, and it's even harder in Africa. So what specific moment or experience pushed you towards, building Certify and to say, okay, instead of joining a Google or joining a Microsoft and being in their tech team, that I want to build something. What pushed you towards that, thinking or towards that mindset or towards that philosophy?
Yeah, actually, that's very true. And actually, entrepreneurship is very hard, and doing it in Africa is even more harder. And and when that entrepreneurship is all about technology, and then that technology is AI or machine learning. So there is entrepreneurships, there is technology, there is you're doing it in Africa, and actually that technology is more of AI, data science, and machine learning. So that is very difficult. But I think it's because of the technology is not our thing. Technology wasn't our thing in Africa because when you take it back like 50 years ago, the rest part of the world we are focusing on the inventing stuffs like investing in good quality educations, but the most country in Africa we are focusing on the wars, for example, try to find out independence, those stuffs. We are still fighting with the cultural matters like pure governments, those kind of things. So we have this mindset like we don't believe in ourselves, we don't believe each other, and like we can't do anything, we can't build our Africa. So that's the kind of mindset that we Africans have. And I think myself, the most to dive is of like, I just want to change that, So whatever anyone is building for Africa is trying to change that mindset. We have to we are trying to show the world, we're trying to show the people that we can do now. We can build we can change, we can build these technologies, we can build our solutions, we can provide a lot of solutions that we have. So it's like we're trying to send back like the message back home that we can actually hone these conversations in global perspective. And actually, this actually keeps reminding me every day, like this is more than becoming millionaire or become a billionaire. It's more of like initiatives, more of movements, more of trying to change the mindset that we Africans have toward ourselves. And also the other thing is, in entrepreneurship, there is this kind of saying that wherever there is less consultations, it tends to have an opportunity there. So in Africa, Africa is one of the market that most of the big tech companies try to ignore it for some reason. So we saw that opportunity, maybe we could change that because there are so many clients here in Tanzania, in Africa, that wants people who have like global standard, global knowledge, who can help them change their business operation. And I think we are actually doing that. So the voice, the mileage you get is because you are operating in Africa, which is, for example, maybe you could decide to go there in USA maybe, and then for like 2 months or 3 months, we could have been realized like millions of money by today. But we haven't done that because we just need the voice. We just need like people to keep hearing about us. We just need the mileage and those kind of things. And I think the other thing is because of the innovation. So personally, I just love innovation. I just love innovation a lot. And by innovation, I mean that, for example, right now, the rest part of the world, we're actually in this innovation 2.0, which we call it like the AI is in software, and software is trying to do something on behalf of the users. But they're like the most businesses in Africa, they are still in the try to catch up with the software. So still they even started to like do some sort of AI in the software. So they don't even have the software, so they're trying to catch up with the software. So I think I personally love innovation, and I think this is my space to me to helping them to contribute to that space, basically.
Okay, that's interesting. So you answered a bit of my questions in one. Um, so let me, jump a little bit ahead and then come back. So you
Yeah.
mentioned that the world is at 2.0, and let's say Africa is at 1.0 in terms of innovation. So what's your thought around that? Do we leapfrog our customers or our markets to 2.0, or do we meet them where they are? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we just need to mix them where they are actually. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So you've had, remarkable recognition based on your work. You were the country winner at the Umoja Hack Africa in 2022. You've,
Yeah.
gotten first place in the Zindi awards. You were Mozilla Builder fund. You got Mozilla Builder funding, and yet you chose to stay in Tanzania and build locally rather than relocate to Silicon Valley or somewhere else. So, you spoke a bit about what drives this decision and all that, but do you think is the right decision, and why do you think it should be, or that's the way to go?
Yeah, actually, I think as I said before, uh, it's this is actually more than money. It's like more than like becoming billionaire or millionaire or trying to realize like millions of money. So it's more than that. For example, here in Tanzania, we don't have talent. So still we have like we do have talents, and I think has been here, try to build around this environment, it will inspire a lot of people coming in the futures. Like, someone did this, so I think we can do that. And again, of course, when I try to check Tanzania in the innovation landscapes in Africa, it's not there. So we have South Africans, we have Nigerians, we have Kenyans, Egypt. So I think to me, I take it as my chance to try to do something for my country, try to put it, mend the maps, but also try to inspire the future generation that we can build something global, we can build something more impactful right here in our country. But also, sometimes just someone has to die, so for other people to, yeah, so.
That's fantastic. So, you are building, Certify. It's an
uh,
AI solution, for Swahili and other African languages, which, the likes of OpenAI and the rest, don't really cover, right? That's quite interesting. So
yeah.
how is that going? And, what challenges, one, have you faced? And secondly, I think it's more a matter of equity and access rather than, just being technology, because more or less we are being ignored. The
Yeah.
training of all these models are not trained based on the African history or the African context. And that's what has happened
Yeah.
over time. Africa has not had the chance to tell its history by Africans. And people like you are pioneering that, allowing us to be able to do that. So how is that going? And, speak a bit about it being more about equity and access than just being a business.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. Because all of these models are coming from outside. They do cover English as large percent of the languages. So, and I think for French and Portuguese, but in reality, that like 70% of the African economy are contributed by people who are very local. And these peoples are the ones who do trades, like they are the ones that you can find them in the local markets. These are the ones who are in the agricultures, for example, healthcare, educations, those kind of industries. So, but for some reason, they just know their local languages. So I mean, they don't know English because most people in Africa, we are not educated that much, so we don't know English. English is kind of like professional language for some people, but for the local people, they don't know. I mean, they know their local languages, and so for them to gain the benefits that AI is trying to bring is very difficult. So there is kind of digital divide there, and they don't participate well in the digital economy. So, for example, a simple use case was there is someone in the Instagram used to create some football ads. So for some reasons, like the AI is so able to draw the logos of Manchester, Arsenal's very well, but when he tries to show like the ads for, our local teams, for example, Yanga and Simba, they are the most top, top two, teams in Tanzania. I mean, the logos are not exactly the logos that we know. So that's a problem. That means there
Mhm.
is kind of low representation in AI, so these people, we are being left behind for some reason. So we are trying to have different mechanisms to buy the governments, to buying different institutions to buy in. The futures, and we have started to collect some of the data from people. Having different mechanisms to collect those kind of data. So I think me and you and other people, I think maybe in the future we're going to change this.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's quite impressive, So we'll
Yeah.
speak a bit about, fundraising and then navigating capital within the African continent. So when you hear of, I would say, the unicorns or the big tech in Africa, whether it's from those in Nigeria, Flutterwave, to those in Algeria, Egypt, wherever, you would always see that, capital comes from somewhere else and not Africa in there. That's a concern because we are building big businesses for Africa and then the capital doesn't come from Africa, right? In your case, you were able to secure funding from Mozilla, builders, for Power AI, which is a significant achievement. So really, the conversation is around how was that journey, one, and secondly, why do you think, African capital is not being, targeted at African innovation? And what should founders do to be able to attract the right kind of capital?
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple of questions there, but let me just summarize it. So actually, the Mozilla funding went very good. So we had a very good moment with them. The pitch was very good, actually. And for the case of like why African people don't invest on African founders, I think it comes down to if someone knows you, I think I mean they can't be serious. Of course, technology wasn't our thing. So we are in this kind of moment that we don't believe in each other. So, for example, if I know you, for example, Michael, like what's your background? Maybe you took the studies from this kind of university, and I know exactly like that there are no teacher there. So maybe, I mean, the quality of education wasn't good. So, like, what are you building? How am I going to believe on what you're building? Like, are you capable to execute that? So it's because our infrastructure, it's because we know each other, it's because we know our environments, and that's why it's really hard for like we African to invest on ourselves. But I think also the economy, on try to compare to other parts like United States. So there's so many people with high economy, like high money, so it's very easy for them. Unlike to Africa, which actually most like the first billionaires has almost 10 billionaires. So which is in United States, like there are millions of them with actually that 10 billionaires. So but also the other things is how do you secure funds from white people? I think it's because of we just need to be honest. The problem is most African founders tend to lie a lot. They tend to promise, and then after promising, they can deliver what they promised. So we have to be honest. And because, for example, let me take my experience with the Mozilla. We had almost 3 interviews because of that. And the one interview was specifically for technical. So we had a very, very deep technical interview with one of the organizers. And then after when the results came out, the interviewer told us like, you are the only one who got selected from this from this year because of the how you showed like how honest you are and how capable you are able to build because you have already shown some sort of early results. We started to to do what we're doing right now before even the funding and everything. And so we are very honest with that. That's how I think. And I just wish I would commend like every founders, Africa founders, to be honest. That's very good. It's very hard. For example, some of the industry, it's hard tech, but you just need to be like honest. Like you're actually start doing it. Like just talking. Just start doing it. And I think, yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting because you have two sides of the equation now. One is obviously raising funding from investors, and the other one is actually I'll say selling your product to the market. And I would have imagined what you would have gone through. You have some big clients, the CRDB Bank in Tanzania, the Workers' Compensation Fund, IPF Software. You have some big name clients in there. So coming from, I would say, deep tech into a market where, as you put it, they are in technology 1.0. How were you able to, convince this market to adopt your product when you were starting? Obviously, once you've built a track record, that's easier. But when you're starting, how did you build trust in the market to convince such high-level clientele to be able to take a risk on you?
Yeah, I think, for example, in Africa, or especially in Tanzania, to be more specific, is that trust is very important. So trust is very important than even the technical things. So before trying to sell the solutions, before trying to give them solutions like your technology that you have, you still need to have track it still needs to have it still needs to have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we lost Innocent for a bit. Let's just give him a few minutes.
Hello.
Okay, I can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I was actually saying that in African markets, especially in Tanzania, so trust is very important if you want to sell solutions before even your technical solutions like trust. And where are you going to get the trust? First of all, is you just need to know the clients, you just need to know the customer, just need to live with them, you just need to understand their pinpoints. And apart from that, also, I do prepare demos. I just recommend people to prepare demos because people like these business people needs trust. They just want to know exactly like what are you doing for them, who are them, like what are you doing for them, like what exactly are they going to get from your solutions. So I think trustee and also demos try to catch some initial kind of metrics, kind of benefit just before deploying, like full scale deploying or selling solution to the clients.
Okay, fantastic. So imagine that I was a young entrepreneur now, and I came to you and said, Innocent, based on your experience, I have a product now. What should I focus on? Should I focus on revenue from the customers, or I should focus on venture funding? What would be your advice to me?
Uh, yeah, I think that's kind of tricky, but from my experience is that I do prefer bootstrapping. I do prefer bootstrapping a lot because from in long run, actually, if you are able to bootstrap your company, I think I recommend bootstrapping your company because in long run, you retain like 100% ownership of your company, and if it will do well, then you're going to you're going to have all of the advantage from it, like all the success from it. But if also money is a problems and you still need like, because there are some of the domains, very exceptional domains, like hard tech, for example, which basically needs money to do that. I think I'd also recommend just go for venture funding. So just need to understand exactly what are you doing, whether does it require money, like or like you can actually do it without venture funding. But it doesn't matter whether what are you doing, whether it is venture funding or maybe it is bootstrapping. Exactly what's so important in the business is basically what are you selling? Because the really meaning of business is because you have to have something that you sell, and there should be someone who is buying what you are selling. And so you need to understand the users. You need to understand exactly where are those users, what are you going to give them, and those are the very important points to consider. It doesn't matter whether are you bootstrapping it or are you maybe going for VC. But I think the most problem that most of founders make, especially in Africa, is they try to scale a lot. That's from early on. So maybe, okay, you already have the idea. You start to prepare the nice pitch deck, and then you try to raise millions of money while you haven't even checked the customers, like the properties, like the behavior of the customers. So that's a problem. I think you don't need VC money at early on when you're trying to find the product market fit. You don't need like the VC money. So just use the shopping, and then after getting the product market fit, like you have some sort of traction, like for the first 100 users, there's someone willing to pay for a product. I think if you just want to scale it, then you can go for VC money, because VC money is kind of risk free. So if the company backfire, then we just separate, and then so that's why I do like VC money in terms of that. But if there's no real like answers to VC money, then don't go for the VC money. Just bootstrap it.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. I think I'm exactly in the same school of thought as yourself. When you need to first validate that this engine called the business can generate value, and there's someone ready to pay for that value. I think once you're able to do that consistently with evidence or demonstrated evidence, raising money is not a problem. So raising money is only a problem when you are unable to demonstrate the evidence that this engine called the business can create value. That's fantastic. So let's move over to the core challenge, or one of the core challenges we have in Africa, which is infrastructure in there, especially for those of us that, our businesses are technical like yours. Yours is, AI. That means that you rely heavily on infrastructure, whether it's from, data centers to networks to just name it, embedded systems and all that. And then we have the power outages, connectivity, electricity, and all those challenges in Africa. So one is, how are you navigating that challenge? The second is, what can we do from a continental perspective to make ourselves more competitive? Because if not, at the end, all our infrastructure needs will not be in Africa. We'll have to look elsewhere to make that happen. So what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so actually that's very true. Africa, we do face a lot of problems. So things like connectivity, there is still some of the areas they can't afford. I mean, they don't have internet, and also some of the areas there is, power cut off, sometime. So as a company, some of the products we do emphasize on the learning locally. For example, Power AI. We started Power AI with that idea that these models should be learning locally on the consumer device. So if that's happened, that means they still don't need like internets and kind of like high power to get the benefit around it. So we structure our solutions along that areas. So it should learn locally, and the consumer should own everything, every pipelines from the UI up to like data and actually processing. That's from the consumer hardware.
Okay, great. I think I saw a term while I was reading one article called frugal, innovation. There's innovation and then there's frugal innovation. Innovation is when you're looking for, the best scenario, best case scenario where, like, in the developed countries. But frugal innovation is when you understand your local context and then you innovate within the challenges of that local context, which is what you're doing. For instance, ensuring that it's able to run on local devices rather than needing, heavy infrastructure. That's, quite impressive. So in terms of costs now, how heavy or how challenging is the cost of infrastructure towards building and scaling a startup in Africa? Is it a big inhibitor?
Yeah, actually, for example, for the case of AI specifically, is that there are two kind of costs. So there is a training cost, the cost to train these models, and also there is inferencing cost. So for the inferencing cost, it tends to be less compared to training, because trainings like usually takes a lot of times, like months, for example, or maybe even years, and also like you need a lot of GPUs and high intensive machines, for example, GPUs. So it tends to cost a lot. But for us, how do we navigate that? So we tend to have some sort of partnership with the external, or companies and institutions that have access to these GPUs. So from that, because they do need our skills. There was, for example, I don't know if it's good to mention them, but we had last year with some of the partnership with Aging Face. So there was there was some of the works we are doing with them in terms of evaluations, trying to put the African language evaluation into their framework. So they actually have access to GPUs. So from that, we also, okay, so we will help you doing this and that, and then of course we need to do also in-house experiments around what we believe maybe this is what we want to ship. So from that also, and also being accepted to different accelerators, for example, NVIDIA exceptions, Microsoft, Building Hub, of course, Mozilla, and other Google for startup, for example. Those kind of accelerators, they do provide access to GPUs, so you can get free GPUs, which enable you to do some experimentations and actual training. But also, for example, as we do have our local machines, though it is not like that intensive, it LRTX, NVIDIA LRTX, so like it has VLAN of like 160, which for some reason it's quite enough for doing small referencing and preparing for the like small scale experimentation. Then if you do scaling, if you do to train like large scale, we have to partner with those companies as I mentioned earlier to do for training. But for inferencing is very it doesn't cost a lot, so you can actually buy like some subscriptions. But again, as I said, we do have mechanism to learn model locally. So you're actually using the consumer, hardware. So for example, it's phones, for example, it's like personal computers. So they already have their personal computers. Just the model lands on the devices for inferencing. Yeah.
Okay. That's quite interesting. As you were speaking, I remembered probably when we first started our journey in machine learning, with simple regression. And then I think most of the examples, for instance, the Boston housing data, where you're trying to, forecast the price of houses in Boston. But that's in Boston.
Exactly.
Have you ever tried to get, the data for an African country, housing data? So big challenge, right? With structured, even unstructured data in Africa. And if we take Swahili, for instance, which is one of the languages that you've trained for, there are over 200 million thereabout people that speak Swahili. But to get structured data to be able to train that model must have been, a big challenge. How did you overcome the data scarcity, challenge in Africa? And what's your advice to someone building a data product on how they're able to specifically get African data?
Yeah, so basically, for that challenges, for example, we do have kind of mechanism in place. Of course, you can find Swahili data, in the internet, or there are tend to have like English data a lot than African data. So if you wanna train like models that understand our cultures, for example, our languages, our images, our audios, then you have to be kind of like different from what OpenAI is doing. Scraping the internet, or maybe other big labs are doing, basically from scraping the internet. So we do leverage our environments because we know our areas, we know our countries. So Certify, we do have kind of technical pipelines. For example, last year, as I said, we even up to now, there is software. We've created software from Agila that help people collect the data. So we do collect the data from people because these data are not there in the internet. So you can't find them in the internet. So we have to collect them manually from the people. So we have kind of that initiatives, and that program it's basically supported by institutions, government institutions in Tanzania. So we do collect data from people, and local data means like local languages, for example, Swahili, and these interior languages like Sukuma, Nyamwezi, and other kind of languages. Yeah. But also for example, for the audio language, because we have text-to-speech model, we have speech-to-text models. So we do have mechanism to convert the videos, data from the YouTubes, for example. There are so many news about Swahili and people try to put there. So how do you get them? So we have created a mechanism to convert the video from YouTubes to have the, audio data for doing, for example, speech to text, for example. But also at the end of the day, we basically have the linguistic experts in the press. So we have people, we had some of the people for data verifications and data annotations that try to, remove some sort of impurities from the data, so as we make sure that we have clean data for training these models. So a lot of things is basically custom based, because you can just find African data online. Unlike to other part of the world, there are so many institutions that specifically are there so just to collect the data. So, for example, if you need data to train multimodality models, you will find there are so many institutions for like that's they just got funded to train. To collect data like world data. But in Africa, I don't know if there are institutions that are there just to collect African data only, and so most of this data is basically they keep it private. I don't know what's the reason, but
yeah.
really
So
funny.
someone else is telling our story again. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you know, that's quite interesting on one bit. Then on the other bit, I was thinking, so if we look at a country like India, I think a lot of the tech innovation, a lot of them, come from India. You have very good, technical talent in
yeah,
India. But most of the technical talent in India don't build products, for the world in India. Most of them end up in America, Silicon Valley, wherever, and then they build these giant companies in America for Americans, but India doesn't get the benefit. So same applies
Yeah.
here, right? The conversation is around, talent skill and then knowledge retention. You are building something great. You would need to have, a highly skilled, talented team to be able to do so. That team is always under constant pressure from opportunities elsewhere. The question really is around, how do we manage that? How are we able to keep our talent focused on developing solutions that meet our needs rather than seeking opportunities, in other places? Because we need those talents to be able to compete, but those talents are being drawn by other places. And if we can't if we can't build and retain our talent, then we cannot compete. What's your thought around this, and what's your advice to startups that are heavily dependent on talent for their success?
Yeah, I think, for example, for us, is about missions. So I think how are we able to impact those talents with the mission we have? Because the history of Africa is kind of different, unlike to India, for example, or the rest part of the world. So we have our own history. As I said, technologies wasn't our thing. So everyone is doing for Africa or for his own Africa is doing something great. So I think because of the mission we have, and we don't want to, like, we're trying to maintain the global standard. We're trying to maintain the accurate. We're trying to maintain that standard that maybe even OpenAI is doing, but specifically doing it for Africa, because we know the problem that Africa face. Like, we have things like privacy issues, for example. Like, as I said, like most of us, like, we don't have money, so we need a solution that people can afford. For example, like poor internet connection, those kind of things. So that kind of missions, I think, is what basically we are retaining, like this people and this talent in Africa. Because in terms of money, I don't know if we do pay them a lot than the rest of the world. I think because of the mission. And sometimes it feels great just building something for your country. Sometimes.
Okay, so the short answer to that will be you have to look for people that have ambition to build something for Africa and not just looking for opportunities everywhere, because if they do,
Yeah.
then definitely you cannot keep them and you cannot build with them.
Yeah.
Which leads to the question around I would say, the knowledge market space. When you are
Yeah.
in tech changes very quickly, and you need to keep up to date with what's going on in the market, because if you don't, you become very irrelevant very quickly. That means the business needs to continue to innovate. But how do we find that balance between innovation of where technology is going to, and then the realities of our current market? I know you mentioned it earlier, and I've spoken about it twice. We're at 1.0, world is at 2.0. We cannot bring 2.0 to them, but we need to keep up with 1.0 on where we are going. What's that balance, and how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think, for example, right now, when I started the company, I used to do everything. And actually, I used to be sort of more technical, but the company progressing just need to change and to focus more on the growth. So more of the marketing, more of like onboarding clients, onboarding customers, and be more sort of that. So what I've done, of course, I just have team. So team of the researchers, for example, team of the engineers that are very good. And sometimes I do have time for them to have discussions, what's going on, and I do participate a lot in those experiments. So from me, I just get a chance to learn what's going on and how does it impact, the business in general, and how are you going to adopt that or to help other business adopt that. Yeah, but sometimes also I do lead. Sometimes I take some time to read what's going on, LinkedIn, those kind of things. So yeah, it helped me, like uh, keep up keep up with the what's going on in the markets, so that I can have, at the end of the day, we should having a better solution for our customers.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So let's
Uh,
speak about regulation and compliance, especially as data protection and data privacy becomes a big subject, around the world. Continents like Europe, America already have, strong developed regulation around it. Some countries in Africa are still trying to catch up. Regulators are still trying to make new rules. Now we are building for Africa. And that means that there are many markets in Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, with different regulatory, requirements and standards and all that. How do you navigate that in terms of the product, building a product that has to comply with regulatory demands in different markets? How's that going? And, what's your advice to anyone in that space?
Yeah, so actually, yeah, that's very good. That's very good questions, because for some reason there are some people try to think Africa is just one country. So Africa is a combination of so many countries, you know. And as entrepreneurs, if you just want to build a solution around Africa, then you have to navigate those kind of license in every country, because every country has its own, rules and laws. So for us, what we've done is that we have legal experts. We have someone who is doing that legally. So we have developed a framework that helps us navigating market compliance from one country to another. And so, for example, we are in Kenya right now. Power is in Kenya. We of course in Ghana also, and we even started to find some operations in South Africa, and I think in Nigeria also will come. So yeah, so there is this kind of legal framework my legal team. So we have actually developed that help us navigating the market around different countries.
That's very interesting what you mentioned earlier about they think that Africa is just one country. You could be somewhere in Europe, and then someone will come and meet you, and for instance will say, I have a friend from Africa, his name is John Mensah, do you know him? How will I know him?
Yeah.
They think it's a very small place where everybody knows everybody else. And that's interesting, and part of why we do this. Africa needs to trade with itself. We need to look at ourselves, as one big market that makes the market large enough to create very large enterprises, looking at it as, fragmented regional segments and all that, which is quite interesting. And I'm glad to hear, you're moving to Kenya, you're moving to Nigeria and other places, which brings up another question, which is cross-border payments within the country. I think it's easier to send money from Nigeria to the UK than to send money from Nigeria to Tanzania. I don't even know how that will work. So how are you handling, cross-border payments? What challenges have you encountered in that? And, if there are any lessons learned within that dimension?
Yeah, even myself, I do have that question every day. Like, why it's very easy to send money from UK, for example, to Tanzania, but sending money from Ghana to Tanzania is very difficult. There was a time I needed because when I started, my career, I by that time I got some of the clients were coming from Ghana, for example. Some of them were coming from Kenya, so it was difficult to get money from Ghana. I remember, like, even I basically have to take like 6 months just to get my money, So, but so that's a problem. That's a problem. But I think it's because of like every country in Africa has its own kind of jurisdiction. So for example, in Kenya, we are Bank of Kenya, Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Tanzania, and each banks has its own restrictions, its own rules, its own mechanism. For example, its own infrastructure, which it's somehow very difficult for the payment aggregators to, combine all the currencies into their solution, which is somehow impacting us entrepreneurs who are actually building for the whole Africa. So I think we still need, we have to change that license barriers, for example, and those kind of regulations in each of the countries. Let's try to see it as like the whole, the whole country as what do people think of it, like Africa is a whole country. So let's just think that way and try to connect these infrastructures into one place. Though we do also lack of for example, in payments, there is something called clearing layer. So, for example, in UK or for example, US, there is one clearing layer, like single clearing layer in payments. So, but in Africa, we do like that. So I think also there should be some sort of initiatives around that. And then if that's possible, then we should see it's possible for someone in maybe Ghana to pay in the local currency. And actually, me as a business operating in Tanzania, receive the money in my local currency. Yeah, though there are some of the initiative. For example, we have Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, which started like 2022 and is trying to fix that problem. But I think we are trying to catch up. So maybe in the future, we are going to expect those kind of changes.
Yes, I'm aware of the Pan-African Payment System initiative, I think by Afrexim Bank and all that. So I know some of the team that are working on it. And that's something that is really needed to break the barriers. Because from what you're saying now, if you take 6 months to receive your payment from Ghana, imagine a business that is trying to expand in Africa. How will they be able to, achieve revenue in all this, which is
For
very,
example,
very, go ahead, please.
Yeah, for example, Power AI, we have implemented the system, payment systems, but it's very easy for people to pay when you're in Tanzania because the payment aggregator you're using accept the local payments. But if you're outside Tanzania, then you should using the card payment. So, for example, Mastercard and Visa. But the problem is that 70% of the people in other Africa countries, they don't know about card payments. They don't have access to card payments. For example, Visa or Mastercards. What they know is they know local currency because that's a currency that they are using every day to buy food, for example, to buy drinks, to pay for, school fees. That's a currency that they're using. So they really don't know how to like use cards, payments, those kind of things. So I see there is a lot of discussions like decision makers and like government kind of things they have to sit down and try to find a way to solve these problems for entrepreneurs who are building and try to become profitable just around here in Africa.
Mm. Okay, that's interesting. And stepping that up a bit, I know technology at different points has created probably what we call inflection points. An inflection point
Yeah.
would be when the internet, was created, and then you had a lot of businesses rise up from that based on that foundational, new technology that came up. The Amazons, the Microsofts, and all that, the Googles. So that era came. I think that another era now, which is what AI is ushering in. So
Yeah.
that's the tool or the capability that AI brings in there. You needed to make a choice on one, the product to build on it, and secondly, the market to serve. So you might have done, probably a B2C, getting to the customers directly, a retail product, but you chose to target businesses instead. So the question really is around when you select your market or your customer, what do you put into consideration before targeting a particular segment? Say, I want to deal with businesses or I want to deal, with the end user. What are those considerations that happen before that choice comes in?
Yeah, I think there is this kind of thing that if you wanna be if you just want to get money, then selling something to people who has money. So there's no problem with things. Yeah, so enterprises already have money, so they have already have system in place. They have money, and I think if you just solve one of their or one of two problems, then it's so easy for them to give you money than consumers. But again, so you just need to check. For example, uh, uh, you can actually go with all of the segments like B2B and B2C, but sometimes you can actually use B2C as a way to go viral because it is very difficult to make some noise with the B2B kind of thing. So you have to make noise kind of marketing with the B2C. So some of the features has to go like B2C so as to make some to pay influencers, to do some little marketings, while you know that I will use these viral things to sell my little stuff to enterprises because they will be able to pay me. So yeah, you just need to check and to know like exactly why am I doing this. But the main drive is basically money. We get money. So if you get money from, if there is a way you get money from the consumers, then it has to be like direct B2C. But if there's a way like you don't get money from consumers, then this has to be like B2B. But if you can actually take both B2C and B2B, but B2C are being used as like viral things, try to get like popularity and like to build in the magazine, because it is very easy to understand what's the consumer ideas, very easy to understand, unlike to enterprises. It's very difficult to understand enterprises ideas compared to consumer ideas. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So if you look at your journey and you look at, the things that have impacted your evolution right now, specifically in terms of, let's say, the startup and tech ecosystems, local meetups, online networks, which of these do you think has had the biggest impact on your growth and has influenced, your outcome?
Yes. Pardon, please.
Okay, sorry. I was saying if you look back in retrospect and you say, okay, I've been part of, tech ecosystems, incubators, local meetups, and all that. Which of these
Yeah.
has really shaped you as an entrepreneur in terms of building you? And why would you recommend it to other African entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think actually community is very important. Communities is very important. For example, let me tell you my story. I like like 60 like 7 or 6 years ago, I used to be a software developer before even AI. So I used to code a lot. I used to be, programmer, those kind of things. But by that time, I didn't know the AI stuffs, but from the movies, Terminators, and novel fiction books. So I couldn't know how am I going to use these technologies. What exactly are they doing? But until I found one of the platform called Zindi, and then I saw there are so many companies wants to AI, machine learning stuffs, data science stuffs that for their operations. And then I realized that there's something more from like other than Terminators or fiction books that we do read. Then I started to take seriously on the topic. Then I realized AI, machine learning, data science is more of innovations. It's not trying to compete with the human. It's trying to compete with the software, because when the world started, everything was done manually, and then the software came, so people started to using the software. Right now, AI is trying to be inside the software, that the software will be doing everything on behalf of the user. So that's a trend that's going on, and actually that's what happening in the rest of the world. That's basically what people are doing. So you can't have that mindset if you're not participating on these communities. Meetups, for example. Those platforms, trying to gain more understanding, because we know our education systems, especially in Africa, and you can't get everything from the, like bachelor degree or whatsoever. So you have to like try to take yourself out there and to meet people, try to learn from these platforms. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, viewers listening, take your community seriously for things that will shape your mind. I think we have less than 10 minutes left, about 7 minutes, but I'll ask two quick questions. Not quick. So the first one is, let's look forward, because most times, most entrepreneurs are visionary. They see things 5, 10 years, 15 years ahead before they become obvious to everyone else. So when you look
Wow.
at Africa 10 years, 15 years from now, what do you see?
Yeah, actually, I think, Africa has so many number of peoples. We are so many. I don't know, but we are so many. So if we find a way to solve the problems, we find a way to, I mean, believe in ourselves and actually try to build this solution down here, I think we are going to see so many millionaires here, millionaires or billionaires, tech entrepreneurs are coming from Africa, like to what's now, right now. Yeah. So I think we just need to solve like the toughest problems. I think we just need to provide solution to our problems, and that's going to change. There will be a conducive environment for us to do that. So the future generation will be having the conducive environment for them to do that. And I do believe that I will see a lot of millionaires, billionaires coming from Africa, just from technology in only.
Mm, okay, that's fantastic. I think my last question would be, let's say you were to, go back and see young innocent now before what he is currently, and then you are sitting down in a gathering with other would-be entrepreneurs, but this time you have the experience that you have now, and you were to advise them, what would you tell them, or what would be the advice you would give to them of what to do to be able to improve their odds of success? What will that look like, that conversation?
Yeah, I think um, we were born with this mindset, like, everything's like, for example, this world has a lot of laws. So we have a lot of laws. We've been going, we've been told to do, like, okay, just go to the church, but you don't know why are you going to the church. Just go to school, but you don't know, like, why are you going to the school, or maybe lead system stuffs, but you don't know exactly why are you leading those stuffs. So I think I should I maybe I could tell them, like, um, you just focus, just try to find out your inner world. So everyone has the inner world. So just try to formulate your own rules of living, and everything is okay to you. As long as it makes sense to you, then everything is okay to you. So even up to now, that actually shaped my entrepreneurships, because I've tried to approach stuff with that mindset, like, this is me doing it. So it doesn't matter. I can just go there to get a job, but I just don't want to get a job, because what I'm doing, it's me, it's my world. So I'm actually living my life, and I think from that, that's what mean to have. Like to be free from the rest of the world, and people will see a different kind of life with that concept. Yeah.
Mm. I totally agree with you on that. I think I was reading somewhere earlier in the week, and there was a phrase there that says, problems and opportunities, they are the same thing. They are, two sides of the same coins. So when
Yeah.
most people look at, the African context, these things we've discussed, capital inadequacy or capital scarcity, infrastructure deficiency, talent retention, and all this, they seem overwhelming, right? And they seem, that they make things very challenging and very difficult to succeed. But let me close with this, that imagine that, they took you back to, let's say, 1996 or 1990, but now
Yeah.
you're in 1990, but you have the memory of what you've seen now in 2025, right? So if you're in
Yeah.
1990, where there was no Google, probably internet was just getting the rise, no Facebook, no YouTube, and all those kind of things, right? And you
Yeah.
know all these things now. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Would you just, have it and say it's nice to have? Or probably you create something like, the Googles and the Facebooks of this world. And really, that is where Africa is, meaning we are seeing 2.0, as you mentioned it, but we're at 1.0. So
Exactly.
the role of the entrepreneur, the role of the visionary is to bridge that gap between moving Africa from 1.0 to 2.0. And that's where the sea of opportunities lie.
Yeah.
Once you can have that mindset, okay, I can see what's going on. I can see everything in 2.0. Oh, my community is in 1.0. We don't have water. We don't have electricity. Our roads are bad. Someone will provide these services, whether now or in the future. It will not always be like this. And then
Yeah.
the caveat will be, wouldn't it be nice if that were you?
Yeah.
So with that, I'd like to round up on here. Thank you so much, Innocent, for joining us today. It's been an amazing conversation, and definitely we'll keep it open to everyone that joined in from all the different channels, YouTube, LinkedIn. Thank you all for joining. It's been an insightful time with Innocent, and we appreciate the work that he's doing and the frontier he's pushing towards putting Africa on the map and allowing us to tell our story ourselves with our own large language models trained to the African context and not just on Wikipedia. So I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Innocent, and a big thank you to everybody joining from everywhere. And then we'll catch up again in our next series. Thank you so much, Innocent, for your time today, and have a great
Yeah.
week.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot,
All
Michael.
right. Thank you. Thank you for everyone joining. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.